Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Today, Retro Machines Mark II. This is from Native Instruments. This is a really great analog synth plugin. It's sample based. It's not using the CPU to generate the waveforms. Because of that, it's using the real waveforms from the instruments. This is very similar to the idea of the Roland XV88, XV5080, those series. Let's dig into Retro Machines 2. Today I'm going to give you a deep dive walkthrough of the entire instrument, explain just about every parameter in the machine, and also give you a demo of some of the sounds and how to use the plugin. So here we are at Retro Machines Mark II. We'll just open up the instruments. Doesn't really matter what we choose here. We'll choose analog machines. I'm going to choose this one and go into Dirty Saw Lead. There are three sections that you'll be dealing with. The synth, which is the page we're on right now, and you have enough parameters to get what you need to get done as far as sound shaping. You have to remember these are sampled waveforms, so the wave has already been created for you. All you really need are enough tools to further shape it so it sounds the way you want it to. Some parameters for the oscillator, the filter, the amplifier, and some performance controls, plus the LFO. There's also an arpeggiator and a chord page here. So the arpeggiator is at the top and the chord functionality is at the bottom. And we'll dig into those a little bit later. Last of all, we have settings. And these are just destinations for controller information, like mod wheel is going to the mod amount, but you can send it to other locations. So we'll just put that back to where it was. Back to the synth. The first thing I want to bring your attention to are the sound variations. These are your patches. When you load it up, one is your bass patch. I mean B-A-S-E, not B-A-S-S. It's your most basic patch. Then 2, 3, and 4 are variations of 1. Number 5 will be a mono patch. Number 6 will be some kind of pad. Number 7 will use the chord functionality. And number 8 will be an arpeggiated patch. Now that's going to be true with all the presets that come with the machine. So let's just go ahead and listen to this dirty saw. Here's the most basic sound. And polyphonically. Okay, number 2 is going to be a variation. So something's been done with the envelope. And I think this one has something done with the filter. And with 4 we get even more filter funniness and a nice airy string sound. As I said, number 5 will be our monophonic sound. And you can hear there's some glide in there, which you can just think of as portamento. And we'll get to these performance controls here in just a moment. Number 6 is going to be a pad sound. Number 7 will use the chord function, and you can turn that on and off over here. And that's going to be true for every one of these patches. This one is set up for a chord patch as default. Sounds like perfect fifths to me. Number 8 is going to be some kind of an arpeggiated pattern. So if you want to rewrite the Daft Punk score to Tron 2, this might be the synthesizer plugin to do it with. Now, if I want to turn number 8 into a chord, patch instead of an arpeggiated patch. Alrighty, let's go up and take a look at the controls up here. First of all, our oscillator. Remember, this is using sampled sounds. So for the sound here, all the way to the left, nothing has been changed from the base sound, other than all the other parameters that have been set here. But for the oscillator, no changes have been made to the oscillator. As we move it here towards the right by rotating it clockwise, we're going to add some filtering to it using EQ. Now I'm just going to right click on this and say Learn MIDI CC, and I'm going to assign it to one of the controls on my Kronos. That way I can play the sound and cycle through it. Now of course I could just do this with the mouse. They're just giving you some additional variations. Fat is particularly nice. What this does is it detunes the sound and it spreads it left and right on your speakers. So if we take it down to 0 and play a chord, you can hear how that really opens it up and fattens up the sound. Very pretty. Down here we have our LFO amount. Unfortunately, we only have one LFO. It would have been nice to have an LFO for the oscillator, one for the filter, and one for the amplifier. We have to make do with one, which isn't so bad at only $20.70 for this plugin right now during the summer sale. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of LFO to our sound. Okay, that's seasickness. If we bring it up a little bit, we should be able to get some vibrato. Sample start here just refers to whereabouts the playback begins on our sampled sound. So we can have it begin later in the sampled sound. And if you think about when the creators of this software were creating the samples, there might have been some modulation in the sound. There might have been some filter sweeping depending on what the initial sound was that they were capturing. And this allows you to move forward and get to a different point within the sample. Here's our filter section. We can turn it off or we can turn it on. Cutoff works just like you would expect it to. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to a knob here so you can hear it. Works just like you'd expect it to on an analog synthesizer. Let me go ahead and assign one to the resonance. We'll leave the resonance at the top, and then I'll sweep the filter. Hopefully this won't kill my ears. It's a little bit steppy when you have a lot of resonance engaged. That's just the way a lot of these soft synths are. But without a lot of resonance engaged, it really sounds quite smooth. And if you're cycling through the filter or sweeping the filter relatively quickly, you're not going to notice it. That sounds pretty smooth to me. Here are our filter types right here. We have our daft low pass. We have a ladder low pass, which is Very typical of older technology from the 70s and early 80s, the ladder filters that they had back then. We have a notch filter and a formant filter. If you're not familiar with formant, it's very much based on the vocal tract of human beings. So when you're using this, a lot of times it can make a sound that sounds somewhat like a vocoder, but without discrete control over the modulator and the carrier. Down here, we can apply an LFO to our cutoff frequency, so we can sweep the filter. And we have a couple of shapes over here that we can use. We have a triangle shape, we have a square, we have a reverse sawtooth, and we have a random. Let's just listen to that. Interesting. All right, let's move on. Down here we also have velocity amount. So this is just the velocity from the keyboard. If you're sending velocity from your keyboard, you can open and close the filter by how hard you hit the key. Hitting it softly, you can hear that's pretty closed. Depending on how hard I hit the key. You also have envelope amount and envelope decay. These are standards from analog synthesizers, so you should know all about those. Let's take a look at the amplifier. We don't have an ADSR, which is a shame. Let's just take a look at the attack first, quite simple. It's pretty percussive right now as far as the attack is concerned. We can make it ramp up. We can also add some release, so it takes a long time to decay. There is a button to make it percussive, but this works in conjunction with these controls. So if I take the attack down, now we have. Very useful if you need to make a percussive sound very quickly for an appreciated pattern. And you have perhaps a pad which has a long decay on it, and just click on that, bring these down, and then listen to it and see if it's going to be what you want. You have velocity sensitivity for your amplifier, just like you have velocity sensitivity for your filter. You also have a gain control. And of course, this is in the amplifier section. So beyond just your volume control that you have in contact here, this is just another volume control. So I'll just hold down some keys and you can hear it. Oh, I'm going to have to take it out of percussive. Here we go. You can see it overdrove the output. So you've got to be careful with that. Next up, we have our performance. So if we click on solo, it's just going to put it into a monophonic mode. If I hold down a chord, it just picks a note. We have legato. All this legato is going to do is it will not re-trigger the filter if you play legato. So it's not re-triggering the filter. There it's re-triggering the filter because I'm playing staccato. We can also turn on the glide function, which you can think of as portamento. And we have a glide time over here. Maximum time's about 5 or 6 seconds. So let me show you that. Not bad. About dead center is where it sounds pretty good for playing a lead. Alrighty, enough of that. Here we have our effects section. Not a lot of controls, as you can see, just the bare minimum, and this might be what you would have found on a synthesizer back in the 70s and 80s. We have reverb. Let's take a listen to how that sounds. Let's go ahead and put this back into polyphonic mode. See what the maximum sounds like. If you were playing live, these would be great in a pinch. If you're playing in the studio, you would probably use other plugins that you have. There are 3 possible effects, but you get whatever effect they assigned for that particular instrument, and it's supposed to be based on what the instrument originally had. So echo is essentially a preset delay. And this is really more of a depth control. You're going to get the same amount of taps even here. They just fade out a little quicker. The other effect is a phaser, but it's not available on this particular machine. It's unfortunate that you couldn't just have all 3, but they were trying to keep it true to the original synthesizer, I imagine. All right, I think we already covered these over here. We're ready to move on to the Arpeggiator section. Let's just create a sound that we would like to use. That'll work. So let's go. Oh, actually, I don't think we want that much echo. I think that'll work. All right. So the first thing we want to do is turn it on, and that's the switch right up here. There's also a switch for the chord functionality down here, and you can use them both together. Nothing wrong with doing that. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Let's look at some of the other functions here. So we have preset patterns in here, and this initial pattern here is just what is the default. If we click on this hard to see down arrow here, we have some choices here. These are available in all the different preset sounds that they give you. You can also create your own. So this one here that I created will appear in every one of these presets. It's nice that it's available everywhere. Let's go ahead and try out a couple of them and see what they sound like. You can cycle through them right here using the plus and the minus buttons. Alrighty, so we've got another row of controls here. Let's take a look at these. So right now the grid is set up for 16 beats. We can also choose a 12-beat grid to have triplets. There's a double time option here. It's unfortunate that there's not a halftime option, but you can't have everything. We have a swing factor here that we can apply. It doesn't give us a value, which is unfortunate fortunate. So you don't know if you're getting a 50% swing factor or 25%. Sounds like about 50%. So next up we have this duration option. Duration is pretty simple. If we move it to the left, it's going to make the duration of the notes shorter. If we move it to the right, it's going to make the duration of the notes longer. If you have percussive set in the synth section, it's not going to work very well. So let's go ahead and give this a try so you can hear it. Now, depending whereabouts you have your amp set here, as far as the attack and the release, is how much control you're going to have over the duration of the notes. Here we have our play order. We have up, we have down, we have up and down, and we have random, chord, that can be useful. Let's go back up to up and down. We also have an octave control, and it will allow us to choose up to 4 octaves to play the arpeggiator over. So here we're just at 1 octave, so it's going to go up and down. If we choose 2 octaves, it will go up and down in octave 1 and then up and down in octave 2. Go to 3, you can hear what that sounds like. And let's hear it across 4 octaves. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So I'll just leave it at that mode right now. Down here we have our volume for each of the notes. So these are just volume controls. So if I just take one all the way down, you'll notice that it's missing. We can initialize all of these, which will put them all to their maximum. We can also clear them, which will set them to their minimum. Down here, we can choose the sound variation. So if you set up a whole bunch of different sounds here in these 8 slots, you could have them so they're close, but a little bit different. And then you could have it play a different sound for the note that it's triggering. The way you do that is you click here and just drag up. So let's have it choose sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, sound 4, 3, 4, 2. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now I'm just using some random sounds that are already in there. You'd need to create ones that are close to what you're looking for, and generally they need to be similar to each other, but with slight variations maybe in the filter or the way they're being processed. If we don't like what we've put in here, we can just clear it out right here. And it's gone. Let's take a look at the chord function. I'm going to turn off the arpeggiator, and we'll take a look at the chord functionality. All this does is it allows us to press down one key, but have it play a chord for us. A lot of synthesizers back in the 70s and 80s had a chord function because a keyboardist might be playing two keyboards at the same time, and on one of them they needed to play chords, and on another one they maybe had to play a lead part. So what was nice is they could just hold down one key on one of the keyboards, but it would play a whole chord for them. So let me go ahead and press one key here. And what it's playing for us, 0 means that's the note that I'm pressing. And then it's playing a note that is +7 semitones higher, which is a perfect fifth. And then it's also playing a tone that is 12 semitones higher, which is an octave. And then it's also playing a tone that is -5 semitones from this point of origin, which is also a perfect fifth. It's just an octave lower than this one. So if I had a good brass sound, you'd be hearing King Arthur's Court. But we don't. We have some kind of buzzy synth sound. We do have presets here that we can bring up. So we have a major triad. It's pretty cool. So that reminds me a little bit of 80s video games. Let's bring up another one, 7th. It's pretty cool. Now, there are a lot of choices here. You got, oh, I got to play you power. Power's a lot of fun. So is gospel. And gospel is pretty cool too. That just tickles me for some reason. Now you can change these to be anything you want by using these plus and minus buttons to change the values. You can go ahead then and save it as your own and then call it up anytime you need to. There's also a transpose function over here. That's about it for this screen. I think we already covered the settings at the beginning. You can just go ahead and have your mod wheel, your aftertouch, and your pitch bend, targeting whatever destination you want in here. Personally, I just leave them where they're at, but you can have a lot of fun with them. At this time, I'd like to demo some sounds for you. Let's take a look at what instruments we'd like to take a look at. Let's do showcase instruments, and we'll just do this one right here. This one actually sounds pretty cool. That's a pretty cool instrument. Let's go back now and look at some of these others. Rhodes Chroma, we can look at some brass in here. I got to remember not to double click on it. There we go. Some brass. Let's see what the appreciated pattern is on this one. And I should tell you that the Arpeggiator here will sync to your digital audio workstation. Cubase, Pro Tools, Reaper, Logic. You shouldn't have any trouble having it sync perfectly. See what else we got here. How about, we got some digital machines in here. So you've got your DX7 EP. I think most people are probably interested in analog, but you do have obviously digital machines. You think of the 70s and 80s, most people think of analog, but the DX7 came out in 1983. We have electric pianos as well. So have all these guys in here. Got harpsichord and clav. Let's take a look at the matrix and brass. And let me just remember to bring this into here. And here we go. That's really good sounding approximation of the matrix. So here's some of the variations. Here's our monophonic sound. Sounds pretty good. This would be our pad sound. That's a little different. Pretty cool. All right. We do have some pads down here. I suppose we'll just take a quick look at one or two of them. Let's hear the arpeggiated sound. That's a really pretty sound. That's got a nice filter sweep going on in there. Let's see what else we got here. That was the matrix. Let's take a look at the MemoryMoog stuff. How about the strings from the MemoryMoog? That's an interesting lead sound. Let's take a listen to the arpeggiated sound. Let's try another synthesizer and see what we got. Let's try, well, the MiniMoog. Why not? I guess everybody wants to hear what the acid bass sounds like. That doesn't sound particularly fat in my headphones. Now the brass does. This sounds very, very much like the MiniMoog. Let's hear what they have for the appreciated sound. That's pretty cool too. I suppose we should maybe do at least one of the lead sounds. Yeah, I mean, if somebody said, what analog synthesizer is that from the 70s or the 80s, I wouldn't be able to tell you that it's a MiniMoog. Could be a whole bunch of different synthesizers. So there's that format sound I was telling you about. That's an interesting sound. How about the appreciated sound? Not bad. All right, let's try out something else. How about Korg Polysix, one of my favorites. Let's go with the brass one. Why not? See what we got. Not a bad sound. Went overboard on the echo, but it's interesting. Let's hear what the pad sounds like. And number 5 is the lead sound. Kind of generic. And the appreciated sound, just for fun. Interesting. All right. I think we have time for at least one more. Let's do the Super JP. Definitely want to hear the brass. That's a very subdued brass sound. See if we have something a little bit more brassy in this one. Try brass 3. Definitely sounds like a square wave right there. That's a cool sound. I suppose one downside you could consider is just looking at this, I can't tell if the oscillator is a square wave, a sawtooth, a reverse saw, a blend. I just don't know. Or if it's maybe some kind of hard sync. But if you go through the sounds and you learn where they are and what they're about, if you need to create a sound that's based on, say, for instance, a square wave, you would know to potentially come here to this lead and you would have that sound. Let's hear the arpeggiated version of that. I think that must be using random. Let's just take a quick look. Yes, random right here. Indeed. But it's a great sound. There's nothing to say that we couldn't go in and make it just an up. I think that would be what I would like to hear. Yeah, cool. All right, let's hear a couple of the pads while we're here. I know I'm spending a lot more time on the Super JP, but this is the stuff I really like. That's a very cool sound. And if you were to play that for somebody, I just don't think they could tell that it wasn't a real analog synth. Pretty sound. See what we have, number 2. A kind of a 4-man sound, but they're using a notch filter, which is cool. Number 5 is our mono sound. Let's hear what that sounds like. All right, let's hear the arpeggiated version of this. Yeah, that's a nice cycling through the filter right there. I just love that kind of stuff. So let's call up pad 2 for the JP. I suppose one criticism you could levy at this is, why not have a bank select and a patch select and not have to load it 8 patches at a time? Wouldn't that just be more efficient for the user? That way I could be in here and cycle through all 64 sounds, or however many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 8s are 96. So, I mean, 96, or just have a way to scroll through all the patches. I think that would make it better from the perspective of the user. That way I wouldn't have to load 8 patches at a time. They would all be in here. I'm not sure what the downside to that would be. Let's hear the arpeggiated version. Very similar to the one that we've had in pad 1, but without the filter getting swept. So that's a pretty cool sound. And what about this? That is very nice. All right, last but not least, I want to play you some of the sync sounds. And when I think of hard sync on oscillators, I usually think of Oberheim, but these sound good. That's pretty good sync for being a sampled sound. Alrighty, I think that's probably enough sounds. You're probably bored at this point. If you've made it this far, my hat's off to you. I really do appreciate it. I really like this synthesizer, this software synth. It's sample based. It has a lot of functionality. We're not talking about a ton of control, so it's not overwhelming. I know a lot of hardware synths today. You know, they got 10 LFOs and 50 different settings for each little knob. It's just too much. Here you can get some really great sounding analog synth, and the presets sound great, and if you need to edit them a little bit, it's not that hard. It's a really great product. Right now at $20.70, I just don't think you could go wrong with this. I don't think you'd be disappointed if you purchased it. If you already have 20 hardware synths, I don't know if you'd be that interested in it. But one nice thing about it is you get total recall. It's in the audio interface that you're using. It will sync to the clocks of that audio interface, so your arpeggiator is going to be perfectly in time. And there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. It doesn't have, like I said, 600 parameters like you get on an XV88 or any of the modern digital virtual synths. But as far as a lot of the reissue stuff that's very true to the originals, this is just fine. And for $20, you're creating 98, maybe 100% of that sound. And you don't have to spend the big bucks to get it. I do appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. I am concentrating now on a lot of the software synths that I own. I'm going to be going through and making reviews on them. So take care, and I'll see you in another episode soon. Thanks for watching.